This is POTUS Mornings on SiriusXM. Here's your host, Brian Ross.
And thanks for being with us. It's been a fascinating hour and 45 minutes, and it gets even better now as we're joined by Congressman Rich McCormick from Georgia, Republican in Georgia's 7th Congressional District, a decorated veteran and emergency room physician. And Congressman McCormick, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be on with you today. Thanks.
It's always great to talk with you. So as we're having a debate over the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel and the president saying that broadcasters who criticize him might lose their licenses, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I haven't heard the exact verbiage of what the president said, but I think you lose your license based on what people don't like. He wasn't fired because of the president. He was fired because a bunch of affiliated networks started calling in and saying, we're canceling this show. And that's what basically led to him being taken off the air. I mean, that's supply and demand economics. When a bunch of people don't like what you say, you get fired.
And actually, he wasn't fired, indefinitely postponed. Not sure whether he's coming back. But I guess it was as the president was flying home from London yesterday, he said that the networks are critical of him and maybe they should lose their licenses. That's different than hate speech or even just being critical of the president, which I think you would agree is kind of an American tradition to criticize the people in power.
Well, sure it is. But if you take President Trump at face value of everything he said, you're not really paying attention to what he's been talking about in the last 10 years. Yes, he says some pretty sensational things, but I don't think you can take him at face value if you're going to talk. And I have heard the exact quote, but I think if you look at a lot of things he says as to get a rise out of people, it's not verbatim type. You can't interpret everything he says at face value, and you know that because he said some pretty outrageous things that you know he doesn't mean literally.
Yeah. Let me ask you, there's a budget showdown, a spending showdown coming. I want to ask you about that and your new bill, which would incentivize federal agencies to find savings rather than spend it. How about the showdown? Are we going to have a shutdown?
I sure hope not. I think this is weird times in politics. I think everybody would agree when you have the Freedom Caucus arguing for a long-term or short-term CR that was originally from Democrats, and you have the Democrats saying we're going to shut down if you actually put a CR that they originally put on the deck. It's a weird time in politics. It really kind of makes my brain fall out of my head because it's hard to figure out which way is up. I think most people realize shutting down the government is not a good thing. What's ironic is if we do shut down the government, it gives all the purse strings and all the availability of what money we can spend to the president. That's why we didn't want to shut down the government when President Biden was the president, because he gets to determine where the money goes when you only have so much money. That's going to be a lot harder on the Democrats than the Republicans, and the Democrats are going to be the ones held accountable for it. Schumer's the one who has literally said, we want to shut down the government. So it's on him if it happens, and I don't think he's going to like the results.
On the House side, though, are there enough Republicans to pass this, or are there a couple of holdouts that are going to force Speaker Johnson to deal with the Democrats?
I think the Speaker right now is pretty comfortable. I think he has the votes for it. You bring it to the floor, and I don't think he's a dull person when it comes to getting things across the finish line. It may take some cajoling and arm twisting, but I think he's got it. It's funny. I talked to a couple of Democrats last night, though, and there's some moderates out there that would vote for this, too, maybe with just a little bit of givens on something that they wanted for their district. This is not going to be as hard to get across the finish line as normal. And I think the president's kind of getting tired of having to call the same people to the White House every time to convince them to do something that ultimately they're going to do anyways. So I think either way this gets done on the House side for sure.
You've now introduced, or you are introducing today, the Incentivized Savings Act. What does that mean?
I'm so excited about this, and thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to talk about this. This should not be a political football. This should be something that most people can get on board. And matter of fact, everybody should get on board with this. I've been in the military for over 20 years. When I was a department head, I get to the end of the fiscal year, and if you don't spend that money, whatever's left over, you lose. And it goes to somebody else who's going to spend the money anyways. And then, matter of fact, you'll get a smaller budget the next year. Everybody hates that about government. And that's for all government bureaucracies, including the military, including anybody else.
Private companies too, really. Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, it's a horrible way to run a business or a government. And so my bill basically is very simple. Whatever you don't spend at the end of the year, instead of taking it away from you and shrinking your budget, I'm going to take almost half of that, about 49% of that. I'm going to say, you know what? Because you didn't spend that, and I appreciate that, I'm going to give you 49% bigger budget of what you saved to next year's budget. So you'll have a bigger budget to buy maybe that computer, that software upgrade, or something that you couldn't afford this year. But don't spend it on a bunch of pens and paper and stuff that you don't really need and just waste it because you don't want to lose it for the next year. Then you're going to take the other 49% and you're going to give it back to debt and deficit. Now, that's one of the biggest problems we have right now. We're in 30% deficit spending per year. That's ridiculous. And everybody knows it. So why not incentivize people to save that money instead? And then the remaining 2% is the extra carrot. That's going to go to the employees of that department as a bonus up to 10% of your salary. So I'm giving you 3 carrots to do the right thing instead of 2 sticks to do the wrong thing. I think it's brilliant. The speaker loves it. Everybody I've talked to, basically on Republican and Democrat side, says they think it's brilliant, and I'm really excited about it, getting it to the floor.
Does it get to the floor?
I should think so. I think as we advertised, I pushed it towards the president. I pushed it towards leadership. The speaker literally said, that sounds almost too good to be true. And he had me pass it by the chairs of budget and appropriations. They both loved it. So I think it's going to get there. I hope it gets there in a timely fashion because it makes so much sense. And it's going to offset some of the spending things we're really concerned about in the CR. But we got to do something instrumental and start reinventing the way we approach this to incentivize people to save rather than to spend. That's the key.
And you're fighting against a culture that's existed for decades, in Washington with bureaucrats that want to hang on to their money. And as you say, at the end of the year, if they feel they don't spend it, it'll be cut from their budget next year. It's a big fight. You're a culture kind of war here.
It's the way that we approach this to literally reinvent how we look at government, how we look at spending. It's going to be transformational. And I hope if we can get in that habit of right-sizing our own budget, instead of needing Doge to come and tell me where I'm going to cut, I'm the one that knows what I've taught, and I'm the one who works here. I'm the one who's a supervisor. I'm the one that comes up with the budget. I know best where I can save and then be rewarded for it instead of punished for it. Can you imagine what I could do to transform the government the way we want it to be transformed?
And that notion of a bonus for employees, so there is a personal incentive then.
Absolutely. Plus, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. We're talking with Congressman Rich McCormick, Republican from Georgia's 7th Congressional District. You are a doctor yourself. You are a decorated veteran, but you're an ER doctor. What do you make of the changes that were voted yesterday on vaccines for children?
I really think that vaccinations have always been vilified for the wrong reasons, but also glorified for the wrong reasons, too. The fact of the matter is vaccines are a very important part of our history to get rid of a lot of diseases that plagued America and the rest of the world, and I'm glad we've had vaccinations. The problem is now we have too many vaccinations, and let me explain that. You don't need a baby to get a hepatitis B vaccination. You get hepatitis B through blood transfusions or drug use, through sexual contact. Babies don't need that. We don't need to give them so many different vaccinations. They don't need COVID. COVID vaccinations have showed no benefit for babies. That's a ridiculous thing to give them. And I think when you start piling up all the vaccinations they get, you can actually have some hyperimmune responses, and I don't want to see that happen. There's not a reason to get rid of the vaccinations that we already recommend, although if you force it on people, they start to get a little squeamish, and this is what happened with COVID. When you tell people you must or else, Americans aren't very good at that. If you would have said for COVID, hey, we only have so many vaccinations, hope you can get one, you probably would have had people lined up around the block, and you did for a while anyways. But if you say, hey, you have to get this or you can't travel, they're like, wait, what? No, thank you. And then they're like, no, you better or else. They're like, well, screw you. I'm not getting this because that's America. We don't like to be told what to do or else. Explain to me why it's beneficial to me. And quite frankly, we went outside of science. When we had people who had immunity who had been exposed, who had the reaction, and we're telling them, you still have to get the vaccination or you can't get on an airplane. You can't go back to work. You can't go back to school. You can't do anything we don't want you to unless you get this vaccination that you don't need, that may actually harm you. Because if you're immune and you have a ton of antibodies running around in your body, and then I give you a vaccination, your body's going to react to that, and it's going to at least make you feel sick, if not actually make you have blood clots and other bad things, myocarditis, which is inflammation of the heart, bad things for you. Why would I do this to anybody other than the fact that I'm the government, I'm going to tell you to do so? Bad habit. Let's make this a choice, educate patients, educate parents, and let's figure out what to do with our children the right way, the scientific way, rather than just cramming things down people's throats.
The doctor we had on just earlier in the program, Dr. William Shatner from Vanderbilt, said with the hepatitis B that oftentimes it can be transmitted to infants from mothers who don't even know they have it. And that's why they decided 34 years ago to begin giving it at birth. The recommendation now is just to wait a month. But he said at birth would save lives, despite the concerns about it.
That's way overstated. If you want, test a mother. We do that with strep B, and we give certain mothers antibiotics as they're giving birth. But giving a blanket vaccination to everybody when only a very small population of the world, especially in the United States, has hepatitis B, giving it to all babies. Once again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If you're going to give a baby a vaccination for what 1% of the population has, and has no other chance of getting that other than from their mother, that's just not good medicine.
Doctor and Congressman, as you head home, what do you expect to hear from your constituents? And are you concerned about your own security? Lots of people raising that question.
No, the nice thing is I have a really good educational experience with my constituency. I think that's why we had the best results in Georgia. We were supposed to win by 13 points. We won by 29 points. I'm not in trouble. I have a great relationship with my constituency because we don't use party lines. We don't just talk in platitudes. We actually have a great experience because we talk in truth. We talk in science. We talk about what works. We talk about what's realistic to get passed. Elon Musk once said to me, before he got into politics, before he bought X, somebody asked what his next big idea was. And I leaned forward, I want to hear this. And he said, I got a million ideas. I can't go to sleep at night because I have so many ideas. But the question is not what my idea is, but what can I actually accomplish? What can I get done? And that's what people want to know, is what's realistically going to get done in Congress, not just what kind of messaging we're going to do. That's what people care about.
Congressman Rich McCormick, thank you so much for your common sense approach, and good luck with this latest bill, and have a good break. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much. Semper Fi.
You bet.